The year is 1967 and the Cold War is in full swing. The Cuban Missile Crisis has passed, but the tensions are still palpable. Every day people wake up wondering, when will nuclear war break out? Every day that passes seems like a miracle. But on March 24th, something happened at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, something that would later be called one of the most mysterious and significant events in both military and UFO history. In the next few minutes, you will hear the uncensored account of the mysterious shutdown of the missile systems at Malmstrom. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union weren't exactly at war, but they weren't at peace either. It was a time when both sides kept their finger nervously over the big red button, and the only thing that kept them from pushing it was the terrifying thought that the other side would retaliate with the same. This strategy was called nuclear deterrence. Both superpowers had a vast arsenal of nuclear weapons sufficient to end humanity, but the goal was not to use them, but to be ready in case the enemy decided to make a rash move. A major player in all this was Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Located in the middle of nowhere, it was one of the places where the US military kept some of its most dangerous strategic range ballistic missiles, known as intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, or more specifically, Minuteman missiles. They were so called because they could be launched within minutes and fly thousands of miles, delivering nuclear destruction wherever they were aimed. If the Soviet Union became too complacent, these missiles were America's insurance policy. But on the night of March 24th, 1967, something happened at Malmstrom Air Force Base that by all rules of physics and technology should have been absolutely impossible. It all started with a simple alarm, then another, and another. Within seconds, 10 nuclear missiles shut down completely. They do not respond to commands, cannot be restarted, and show no signs of life. The most disturbing thing about the whole situation is that these missiles are not interconnected in a way that would allow such a simultaneous failure. Rather, they are designed with multiple layers of protection, redundant control systems, redundant power supplies, and multiple layers of safety mechanisms. A single missile failure, an extremely rare occurrence, 2 disabled missiles, a strange coincidence, but 10 nuclear missiles shutting down within seconds of each other. That was unthinkable. Panic gripped the underground bunker. Engineers and officers rushed into action, flicking switches, rerouting power supplies, running every possible diagnostic test they had at their disposal. But nothing worked. The warheads were still physically in their silos, but the missiles themselves were lifeless. America's most advanced weapon was completely disabled. If this had been an isolated incident, it might have been accepted as some incredible technical failure. But just a few weeks earlier, something similar had happened at Oscar Flight, another missile control center. It was now clear that this was no random accident. It was a repeating pattern. And when the military encounters recurring anomalies, it usually means only one thing: a very serious problem. Those in charge of the facility had to face an uncomfortable reality. Either they were confronted with an entirely new kind of technological breakdown, never before seen, or someone or something possessed the power to shut down America's most dangerous weapons at will. And that was a thought no one wanted to even entertain, because anyone who could, in one fell swoop, turn off nuclear missiles could do something much worse with them. And this was all happening in the midst of the Cold War, an era built on the idea that the two superpowers had absolute control over their nuclear weapons. The very assumption that something, be it human, foreign, or something beyond comprehension, could simply shut them down was more terrifying than any missile attack. And to make all of this even more ominous, several Air Force officials reported seeing something strange just before the missiles went off. According to their testimony, something unexplained was hovering over the base that night. It wasn't a bird, it wasn't a plane, and it certainly wasn't just a harmless weather balloon floating on the wind. No, what they saw was an object glowing red, moving in a way that defied all logic. Robert Salas, one of the missile launching officers at Malmstrom, later testified that his guards called him panic-stricken. They saw something hovering above them with vague intent. Minutes later, 10 nuclear missiles went completely offline. When the thing finally disappeared, it vaporized as suddenly as it had appeared. But the chaos below remained. The damage had already been done, and yet, in spite of it all, in spite of the guards swearing on their lives that they had seen something in the sky, in spite of the object appearing at the exact time the missiles went off, the Air Force simply shrugged, and they attributed the accident to a possible electrical malfunction, but agree that an entire fleet of nuclear missiles can't just bug out of nowhere. And bugs don't hang in the air, glow red, disrupt gravity, and watch you from on high. Of course, the people who actually witnessed the event did not accept this explanation. And really, who would believe it? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's definitely a duck. The witnesses held firm to their accounts, refusing to be fooled into believing that they had all somehow fallen into a group hallucination. But let's consider the possibilities. If it was just an electrical malfunction, then why was the outage so accurate? Why did it happen at the same moment that something unusual was spotted in the sky? Could it have been Soviet interference? After all, this was the Cold War, and we cannot rule that out. Maybe, just maybe, the Soviet Union found a way to penetrate American missile systems. Maybe it was an early form of electronic warfare, a warning shot without firing a single bullet. But if it really was, shouldn't the US government be sounding the alarm on all fronts? Wouldn't it use the occasion as a pretext to increase military spending even more? But nothing of the sort happened. So if it wasn't the Russians, who or what could it have been? Could it be an alien phenomenon? Because the security guards swore they saw a UFO. What if they were right? After all, it's not just one or two people claiming to have seen something strange. There were many witnesses, all describing the same thing. Could it be that some unknown outside force, something beyond human comprehension, actually possessed the ability to disable nuclear weapons at will? It is this question that makes the Malmstrom incident so significant and unsinkable. Decades later, the mystery surrounding the deactivation of the missiles at Malmstrom remains one of the most inexplicable events in military history. For years, the US Air Force kept the case classified. But if it really was just an electrical malfunction, why not reveal all the details? Why not let the American people see exactly what happened? Instead, the military covered up the case, which only fueled conspiracy theories and ensured that this incident would never be completely forgotten. Only 30 years later, most of the documents have been declassified, but even then, they were not fully revealed. To this day, the case continues to be mentioned in congressional hearings and in countless discussions among researchers and former military officials. Yet no one seems particularly inclined to talk about it in detail. And when the government avoids answering questions, it's usually because the real answer is better left unsaid. So what is the truth? A random electrical problem, Soviet interference, an extraterrestrial warning, or something even stranger? Maybe we'll never know. So far, no official explanation has been able to fully account for what happened that night. These days, however, as technology advances and the world's governments become globally networked, it is increasingly difficult for them to hide the obvious. Faced with a monstrous scandal just a few years ago, the US was forced to publicly release the recordings of several unidentified flying objects. These recordings had been leaked to the World Wide Web long before that, but during a flurry of lawsuits related to withholding information from the public, they were forced to release them officially on a government website. You can see and learn more about all of this in our How We Secretly Serve the ETs video, located to the left of your screens.